So, Arek, welcome to the Business Advisory Show. Thanks for coming on.
No worries, my pleasure.
Now, 5 castle portraits. We recently met at an MYOB national conference in Melbourne, 2019, at the Convention Centre. And in fact, Arek, I jumped in for a headshot, and so did some of our team, Caleb behind the camera and so forth. I thought it was a great idea to get you on and ask for your expertise and to get you to share with our viewers. What is it that's become so important now? I mean, it's always probably been just as important, but today in such a digital age, a social media age, tell us about what you do and why that's important for business owners.
So I basically try to help business owners create images that build trust with their audience, with their target market. Especially these days, it was important always, but it wasn't such intensity, such a volume. These days, you're expected to be constantly in front of your clients. The way I help people is I create authentic portraits that represent you, your personal brand, your business, the environment in your office, the culture, the clients you work with, the experience you offer, the environment, and everything else. So to help you build a cohesive brand that appeals to your audience and gives them a whole picture of who you are in a way that they trust you and they're more likely to hire you.
Yeah, and obviously there's a little common sense about that, a little bit of common sense, but why is that even more important today than maybe 10 years ago?
Because 10 years ago you would have maybe had one business portrait taken it will be the same one on your LinkedIn, was it before LinkedIn, on your About page and maybe somewhere on the brochure. That's it. These days you need it in many other places, on other social media as well. You need to keep posting. So if you have something to share with your clients, it's a good idea to have your face associated with it, especially if you create content yourself, if you have some intellectual property that you want to share, some business tips, business advisory, you want to be associated with your words. So I help people create content that they can use in whatever need they may be. So when you invited, for example, to be interviewed at a podcast, invited to give a talk at a conference, to co-author a book or blog post, you need images to go with that. Especially these days, email is so important. Who doesn't have a portrait, a business portrait at the signature in their email? People are more likely to give you a call if they know who they're talking to and who they're writing with.
Yeah, absolutely. And so some of those examples, you mentioned off camera before that you'll even often meet with the client beforehand, maybe weeks or a month or whatever, and really understand the backstory and what's behind that. And why does that help? What does that enlighten you to in terms of your strategy?
Oh, that's hugely important. So every image has to have a purpose. So whether you're going to be using it as a cover of your book, as your LinkedIn profile, on your website, anywhere it's going to go, it has to have a purpose behind it. So I usually take a look at the context on the website, for example, what's the headline around it, what it's supposed to be illustrating, and then we create a custom tailored portrait or photograph that specifically fulfills that role. So if it's going to show, for example, you working with your perfect client, we have to think about who's your perfect client, what they're wearing, what's the gender, what age, where you meet them, what sort of experience they should expect. This way, they are more likely to hire you because they can see themselves in the photographs and they know what to expect. If you have awesome spaces, fantastic.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Yeah. The things that you see that are the common mistakes that a lot of people are still making these days, what are the things that stand out to you?
There are two. One is using selfies as business portraits. That devalues your brand tremendously. Everyone can tell if it's either a selfie by the wall or a professional photo from a wedding you were a guest at and you just cut yourself up and because you were wearing a suit but you still have your sunnies on, So these are really bad because people won't take you seriously if you don't take yourself seriously. The other common mistake I found, people using stock images, especially people who offer face-to-face professional services. If they use generic business stock photos where two businessmen are shaking hands or a pretty lady signing a document or answering a phone, this doesn't represent who they are at all, doesn't give their clients any idea of who they will be dealing with, what to expect. It's a wasted opportunity, even though it looks nice, but people can see straight through it. If you have consistent custom-made images that are of that same quality as you would buy on stock photography websites, but show your people, your face in few places, dealing with actual people you deal with in your actual space, people are way more likely to give you a call over your competition because they know exactly what they will be dealing with.
Yeah. Now, this is not pipe dream stuff. What you're talking about, these are everyday issues, and people are taking themselves more seriously if they are professionals. And I guess for our accountants and bookkeepers out there moving into business advisory, this is probably going to become pretty important.
Yes. I mean, everyone's talking about their unique selling points and what value they offer, but they don't show it. You can talk all about how professional and how you take care of one-on-one with your clients, you spend so much time with them. Show it. Show you sitting with your client, showing them how to do bookkeeping on Intuit and how to operate the system, or how to plan, how to show your clients how you work with your clients. So a photograph of you planning their marketing or key points in the calendars, we'll set up something that illustrates that in one photograph. Things that you do, show them, and people will trust you more.
Yeah, and without revealing anyone's identity, you had a great example we shared before, offline, about somebody that was a TEDx speaker, and they came down about a month early or something like that to basically build their marketing collateral or their digital assets.
Yeah.
Can you share just a bit about that?
Sure. I'll just use the first name. So Vanessa, Dr. Vanessa, she's an oceanographer, marine biologist. She was invited to do a TEDx talk here in Melbourne. So ahead of time, she came over because she needed a whole portfolio of images for her TEDx talk, but also for future. We've done images at the Melbourne Aquarium with her surrounded by fish and everything. That was used as the photograph that TEDx used to promote her talk. We also photographed her in different areas that she could then use, or she used when she was invited to the UN to talk about how to preserve whales. Those images are ready for her for whatever she needs. She has images where she's very approachable or where she's authoritative, with images where she's smiling at the camera, but also the ones when she's a little bit more reflective, so she can use the negative space for her quote or to show the impact people are making. So anything she may encounter in the next few years, she's got an image ready for it.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah. One tip, what would be the very first thing accountants and bookkeepers should think about or consider when we're talking about this topic today for themselves?
I think everyone has a perfect client for them out there, and I would recommend you think about who that is, because all your marketing has to be attractive to that ideal target market. So if you're working with tradies and you like boxes of bills, a photograph or even the language you use to bring them in, that's going to be different than if you're working with corporate clients where you deal with a department rather than the owner. They will be different if you're working with day-to-day families who need basic accounting done. There's a different language you may want to use to them, but also different images, different environment that they will appeal to them. The way you're dressed will also show who you want to work with. If you're professional, clean cut, you'll have a different client than if you're not so clean cut.
Understood. Yeah, fantastic. Do you think that certain industries need to work harder at this than others? Do some find it natural and easy? Do some need to, engage a professional? Or really, anybody that's not using professional expertise like your own is perhaps maybe now becoming risking becoming less competitive and less capable in that space.
Yep. So if a business person knows who they want to attract to the business, that will dictate a lot what they do. As I mentioned before, the images you use, the language you use, the way you're presenting yourself. So if you want to reach people who can afford your services, if you want to reach that better target market, whether you be still tradies, but you want to maybe attract tradies that have big companies under them, not a single trader. Sole traders, yes. There's a whole different world out there you can explore at not very big cost. So images are only the first part of it. You can use them on social media, websites, LinkedIn, ads, promotional materials, collateral, but you still have to have a way to use them.
And I think that this is misunderstood as well. Many accountants and bookkeepers don't often realise that when they get professional image work done, it often really brings up their self-esteem and their self-confidence, because when they see themselves looking good, looking their very best, they're much more confident to present that case to go and win new business as well.
But also, you have to remember that the images of you, if they're for business purposes, they're not for you. They have to appeal to your target market. If you like the photo, that is a bonus, but your target market has to like it. Some people say, I'm too old for this. Age can be an asset. That shows your expertise, that you've been in the business for long, that you know what you're talking about. If you are young and attractive, that might be an asset as well, because that will reach a different type of person or communicate a different thing. Don't fall into the trap that you have to love every photograph of yourself. They're not for you. They're of you for your clients.
Put it this way. Yeah, well done. Well, thank you so much for your time today. We've really appreciated your insights, and you might see some of Arek's work behind the scenes with yours truly, and some of the stuff we do in the future. Thanks again.
Awesome. Thank you.